I'm Travis Miller, founder of PGA Memes and 59 Media, and this is the Who Are You podcast.
Welcome to the Who Are You podcast, a project that explores how to understand and live out your life's purpose. In this limited series, we will interview people whose unique experiences and insights will increase your self-awareness and help you live a more meaningful life. Each episode will address one of the following themes: how to figure out what you want, what to do when you figure it out, how to deal with setbacks along the way, how to excel and accelerate your career path, and what to do when you've made it. Today's guest is Travis Miller. Travis will help us get clarity around what to do when you figure out what you want. His unique story and career trajectory provide a really fun and dramatic example of a talented person who made a significant career change. Here's a little more information about Travis. Travis is a proven and respected executive in the home services and golf industry. For nearly 20 years, Travis oversaw dealer programs within the smart home industry, including serving as the vice president of sales and marketing for the nation's second largest alarm company, Brinks Home Security. At Brinks, Travis oversaw not only the internal sales, training, and marketing efforts, but also managed a network of over 300 authorized dealers nationwide. Currently, Travis runs 59 Media, who boasts several high-profile clients such as Trump Golf, Jason Day, Golf Live, and Caddy Cocktails, and also founded the wildly popular brand PGA Memes. I can attest to that. Makes me laugh every time I look at it and log in. PGA Memes has grown to be one of the most popular brands in golf and reaches over 75 million unique impressions monthly. How many impressions monthly does Arrowhead Talent Solutions get?
It's not 75 million.
Yeah, it's just probably like half of that, I would guess. So 75 million unique impressions monthly and has raised more than $1 million for charities through golf events nationwide. Welcome to the show, Travis.
There's nowhere else I'd rather be, guys. This is right here. I'm excited. This is good times right now.
Oh, that is ridiculous. Well, hey, and I didn't introduce ourselves, but this is Cecily Taylor and I'm Clark Harvey, and we're really happy to be here with you guys today. Travis, love the shirt.
Thank you. Yeah, getting ready for the Masters already. You know, it's just right around the corner.
Clark likes to wear his Masters stuff wherever he goes, so he can project that he's been there.
Totally.
Yeah, it's definitely a good flex. I'm actually flexing twice as hard today, and I didn't mean to, but this is a hat that I got when I went and played Oakmont a couple weeks ago. So I've got the Oakmont Masters polo, and I'm not that guy, but I guess I'm projecting that today. I don't know.
I think you're pretentious, and you should just lean into it.
Actually, the door is already slipping open.
Actually, I think I'm probably way more pretentious than you, but love the shirt. Okay, so I was thinking about this. Like, the reason we wanted you to be on this particular episode was that I just thought your story was so fascinating as I got to know you a little bit. When I started looking at your PGA Memes content, like, I remember laughing so hard and laughing out loud looking at my phone. And I never laugh out loud when I'm by myself. I mean, that's the mark of a psychopath, I think. But I just remember thinking, like, who is this guy? Like, you know, it was, you were hiding behind, well, not hiding, but you were behind that PGA Memes moniker. And I just remember always thinking, like, who is this dude and how does he get it so much? Like, how can he consistently make me laugh every single time I log into Instagram?
Yeah, I mean, so it's I'm glad I'm able to make you laugh, Clark. That's one of my prouder moments now to know that I've checked that off the accomplishment.
How did you two meet?
By the way, this is a Masters cup.
Oh, wow.
That I'm drinking out of, so I can equal your pretension. How did we meet? Going back a few years, I reached out to Travis. I think I DM'd him through Instagram and just said, I love your content. I love your stuff.
You slid into the DMs.
I slid into Travis's DMs, and I think it went okay because I was like, hey, man, I love your stuff. Would you be willing to collaborate at the Brighter Days Invitational, which Brighter Days Foundation is the charity I run? And then I think we hopped on a call and got to know each other a little bit. That's my memory anyway, Travis.
Yeah, I believe so. I met Jason in person for the first time at the 2019 US Open. He was at some Lexus thing that he had to do. And I didn't know that he really knew much about PGA Memes. Ellie had messaged a couple times laughing at some of the jokes. And then I posted a video of meeting him, and she wrote like, "Oh my gosh, you're here." And then I think shortly after, you and I connected, and everything, the rest is history. Now we're here on a podcast together. Yeah.
And you can't get rid of me. I'm like a fungus for you. And I know that, but I don't care because I enjoy you. But yeah, that's my recollection too. And then I think you came to the charity event, and yeah, like you said, the rest is history. So it's been awesome getting to know you. But your story, and I'm not saying this just for flattery, but I mean, I think it's fascinating. I think it is super interesting, and it's admirable because I think you've taken a lot of risks along the way. And I mean, just for starters, we were talking before we got on camera here, a little bit about your backstory and where you grew up and things like that. So if you wouldn't mind, Travis, just kicking things off. I mean, we know a little bit now about who you are, PGA Memes. And you not only do that, but you have lots of other really successful social media accounts. You have this charity arm. You're helping with social media accounts for other big names in golf. But like, where did it start for you? Tell us a little bit about your backstory.
Yeah, I grew up in Southern California, and I've always been into sports, but primarily growing up, it was baseball and football. And I think right before I turned 16, my dad got transferred for work, and he had options of Park City, Utah, or somewhere in Ireland. I'm not sure exactly where. And I think my parents thought Ireland would be a cool idea, but they thought that'd be just crazy change for two young kids and just for them and their lifestyle, even though Park City still was. I mean, the high school I ended up graduating from, I think we had 114 students in our graduating class. And
Nice.
Where I grew up in California, it was pretty big. And so it was a huge culture shock, but it was probably the best thing for me. You know, I grew up in a small town. No one was really getting into trouble. It allowed me to be like a multi-sport athlete and try different things. And so I felt like it was a good move, although it was hard at first. But I still didn't play golf. Matter of fact, I was a huge baseball guy, and baseball coincided with golf. And the school I went to, we had a hard time even fragmenting a baseball team. Like, we had a hard time putting it together. And I would go to these golf guys and be like, "Hey, why are you playing golf? Like, come play baseball. Like, it's so much more fun. You know, this is what we do. Here are the guys we have on the team." And you know, it was tough, but I'd always look at these golf guys playing golf in high school and just thought they were complete dweebs. I'm like, why are you doing this? Because I think golf, especially when you see golf on TV, especially this is in the late 90s, they're perceived as just it's boring, stuffy, you know, wearing kind of dumb outfits and stuff. And I'm just like, what's going on here? Why are you into golf? And I look back now that my baseball career didn't really mount out. I got injured, and I look back, I'm like, man, I wish I was on the high school golf team earlier, and you know, be a better player today. But so I stayed in Utah until about my mid-20s. And started a business with some friends, and it was in the smart home security space. It kind of started out where I was a college student, and in Utah, there's a lot of Mormons in Utah. I'm not sure if you know that or not, but you know, they go on these missions for 2 years, and they sell, you know, the church. They sell God to people in countries all over the world, and which is the toughest job. And I had a lot of close friends that would go do that in, you know, Venezuela, you know, Ukraine, like Romania. They'd go all over. I had a friend who went to some small island in Guam. And they come back and they're trying to find their place, you know, in the world. And Utah just started pumping out these companies where you go out and sell in the summers door to door. And I got invited to this pizza party to go talk to some kid who made $250,000 in 4 months selling alarms. And he knew.
Is a friend of yours?
Well, he knew my roommates. They went on a mission together in like Brazil or something. And so I had like $40 to my name. You know, I was 19 years old and I had $40. I was in college, and I'm like, well, if anything, I'm going to go get some free pizza. So let's go hear what this guy has to say. And I met him, and he was a great guy. But when I looked at him, you know, sometimes when you look at somebody and that's successful in what you do or want to do, and you size yourself up. And I'm like, well, man, if he can do that, I could at least do half as good, if not better.
Mm-hmm.
And if I do half as good, I make over $100,000 at 19. And I started thinking about the car I was going to buy, you know, the watch I was going to buy, and then put a little bit of money away and all that stuff. And I went out to Chicago.
Well, sorry to interrupt you. What was your dream car at 19 years old, Travis? What would that have been?
I think it was just some BMW. It was probably not even like the nice BMW. It probably was just like a 3 Series or something. I was like, I just need to get like a basic 3 Series, or, you know, just so I can have something to ride around in. I think I was driving a Chevy Cavalier at the time, so it would be a good upgrade.
That was my first car. It was a 1984 Chevy Cavalier station wagon, and it was as ugly as it sounds. So anyway,
I don't think I've seen the station wagon version of it. So
you can make a Chevy Cavalier worse, Travis. You make it a station wagon and a 5-speed.
Apparently you can.
Yeah.
So I think 10 of us went to this pizza party that were close friends of mine. All 10 of us signed up. And, you know, when May hit, we all caravanned out to Chicago, sold alarms. And I was the top first-year sales rep in our office and had a lot of success. And it was like the best thing, I think, outside of playing team sports. It was the best thing to happen for me at that age, because I learned about how to talk to people. I learned how to sell. I learned how to negotiate. I learned how to be, I learned perseverance, and I learned just to push myself in difficult times. I learned about credit and how to manage money, because I'd go to a house that had an Escalade and a 7 Series in the driveway, and the yard was all beat up, but they had these nice cars and stuff. And I'm like, oh, these guys are going to pass credit, and they're going to be able to pay the $50 a month that I'm selling or whatever. And then I'd run their credit, and they'd get like a 500 credit score. I'm like, this doesn't add up. But then as a young kid, I didn't know that. You know, I started learning a lot, and we had a lot of success. The company we worked for was rough around the edges. They made some mistakes and had some false promises. And I was fortunate enough to where when we finished the summer, I was able to get, you know, compensated what I was promised, but it wasn't easy getting there. And I had my really close friend whose dad worked for Delta. And after 9/11, he was, you know, figuring out his career. He's retiring. And I think a lot of their retirements were being hit. And he wanted to start a family business. And he started an alarm company. And I was the only non-blood related person that was part of the founding crew. But we built it up pretty big. We were top 5 ADT authorized dealer. And I was helping kind of steer the ship with them with all efforts of marketing and sales and operations. And it was pretty cool at an early age to get an opportunity like that. So I kind of jumped right into a big role in a company, and we built it to pretty strong heights. And when we got towards the end, they wanted to venture more into commercial security. And let me tell you, security itself in home security or commercial, none of it's sexy. It's not something you wake up in the morning and you're like, man, this is the coolest thing that we're doing here. Like, let's go to work. Right. And so I was already fizzling out a little bit. And when they went to commercial security, I was just not for it. And I started kind of voicing that I might start my own home security company and go on my own and break the boy band up a little bit. And the corporate team that we were working for at the time was Brink's Home Security. Yeah. And they caught wind of my thoughts, and they called me and said, hey, we want you to come to Dallas, meet with us. And I'd never been to Dallas before. I flew there and met with a few of the executives, and I was 25, and they're like, hey, we want you to come and run our dealer program. You're young, but you're an entrepreneur and you've walked the walk, and that's what we're missing. Like, we've had a bunch of old guys that have come into this role that have the experience, but just keep doing the same thing over and over again. They're not resonating with our authorized dealer owners, and they're not trying new ideas. And you're exactly what we're looking for. And I stepped into a big role that was much bigger than me. And I went into it with a lot of confidence, though, because we had success. And I think the biggest challenge was when I made the move and went there, I had to work with some peers that, you know, the corporate company, we had like 1,000 employees. And I had to work with some peers that I think felt like I didn't belong. And so I had to kind of, what's that?
Sorry to interrupt.
No,
did Did you get the standard line from people who said, I've been working at this company longer than you've been alive, that kind of thing?
Yes. And I was lucky because there was a guy who he was at the end of his career. He was a legend at ADT, and he came in right before me and was the vice president at the time. And although he'd been at the company for a long time, ADT was doing things differently. They were the leader, and they still are for the most part. But he pulled me aside and said that you're going to hear that, and this is how meetings are going to go, and this is what's going to happen. He's like, you're here for a reason, and you need to push back. And when people tell you this is how we do things, you need to say, well, that's exactly why I'm here now, and that's why we're changing it. He's like, you need to put them back. You need to throw them back in their seat a little bit. He goes, and you're going to have some disruption at first, but if you can execute and make things happen, you'll have power to the words that you speak, and they're going to listen to you moving forward. And it was true. Like, I've always been one of the harder workers in the room. I'm definitely not the smartest person in the room, but I brought new, fresh ideas, and we started to see a lot of success. And then I started to really cultivate the respect of the dealer network. And I think that was the first big win, is once the dealers started to respect me and look at me as a clear leader and someone to fall back on, the rest of the corporate side of the company started to see that quickly, and things shifted. And then at 27, so just 2 years in, I got named top 20 under 40 in our entire industry. And I was the youngest in history at the time to get that acknowledgement. Usually people are like 38 or 39, like almost kind of like a throw-in, thing, or whatever. Like, who can we nominate here or whatever? Yeah. And so
it's like a little lifetime achievement award at that point.
At that point, it kind of is. And it moved quick and had a lot of success. But to tie in this golf piece where I'm at today, I had to take all these clients out golfing because that's what they like to do. And I'm like, oh, what are we doing here? Like, I'm like, okay, let's see. And I was really bad, and I was just getting through it. And a lot of them were bad too, but you don't want to embarrass yourself. But I had to start golfing a lot with clients, and started to get better, a lot of self-taught stuff. And I had so much fun doing it though. Like, we were outside, escaping the office. Usually it doesn't even matter how bad of a golf course is. It's still like nice. You're outside in nature with good people, drinking cocktails or smoking cigars and telling jokes that you hear on the golf course are just ridiculous. And you learn a lot about people. And I really built my whole kind of, I guess you could say, my MO around working with my dealer partners was just out on the golf course, getting to know who they were, cultivating friendships, integrating business discussion. And I get to spend 6 quality hours with someone in or around a golf cart. I mean, you can't really build too much rapport faster. Like, a lot of my colleagues would go to nightclubs or fancy dinners, right? And you can't even hear or talk to anybody. And spending far less on the golf course as well. And so that was something that really catapulted me into golf, to see what it really was and the fun you can have with it. And it really changed my perspective on the sport from what you see on the broadcast on TV. And that's where kind of ideas started circulating in my head a little bit.
So do you mind if I kind of stop and kind of rewind a little bit? Because you said about 50 things that I would like to ask you about. And I know we can't do that, but just one quick kind of biographical detail that was of interest to me. Did you finish college? Did you graduate?
No. So I was close. And then I started this company with friends, and we just started blowing up, like I said. And I had to wear multiple hats, as many people do when you start a new business. And I just couldn't do it. I couldn't get myself to go to the campus and all that stuff. And so a couple of years had passed, and more online classes were becoming available. So I'm aging myself here, but during this timeline, online degrees and stuff weren't as readily available as they are today. But Weber State University in Ogden, Utah had a good program that kind of fit what I was doing, but because I was in communications and behavioral science before. And now that I'm in sales and kind of entrepreneurship stuff. They had a good program for sales, and then they had a great behavioral science program, and I could do it all online except for like a couple classes. And I was like, all right, I think I can do that.
Yeah.
So I got all the way. I'm like 20 credits short, and I end up taking this job at Brinks. And at that point, I just kind of hung up the college career. So I never finished it, but I want to. I think that's something that, you see a lot of people do that later in life where they get it just to have to say I did it. And I'm going to do that. I just haven't gotten to it. But yes, got close, and just life happened,
Well, and by the way I framed that question was probably not the right way to go about it. So I am not judging at all.
It felt like you worked hard.
College degree.
Wow, what an idiot!
And the podcast.
From where I was sitting, I thought, as you're telling the story, I'm like, there's no way he finished his degree because he had too many other things going on, and that is totally cool. And I think it's a good lesson for people listening in. Like, yeah, I mean, there is a path to success that a lot of people take, but yours doesn't fit neatly into that. And I think that is probably a testament to you. And, and that was kind of one of my next questions, was about how were you able to do it? I mean, how were you able to, at such a young age, be able to succeed in, frankly, a really intimidating kind of a profession? So, I mean, most people now, so, if you say, hey, call that person, pick up the phone, they don't want to do it. They'll be like, oh, I texted him, or I emailed her, or whatever, rather than picking up the phone, or let alone knocking on somebody's door. That's a terrifying prospect to folks. So how did you make that work for you, and how did you make it work so well?
I think anything I get involved in, I get really passionate and almost this obsessive behavior over it, to where I want to learn everything I can about it. And I want to make sure that, I'm successful. And I've always felt the need to make sure that people around me are successful too, because I think that came from the team environment of playing sports. And that's also important as a leader too, to make sure the company you're working with, or the team that you're working with, is having fun. It's a good work environment. And obviously if you guys have a good camaraderie, then things are going to move forward, things are going to get done. And at an early age, I liked the feeling and the taste of success, and I wanted to find more of it. I liked the feeling of being the person, the expert manner, or the person that people would go to. It helped build me up to a position where I was like, hey, like I'm finding that role of being a leader again. Whereas like in football, I was the quarterback and I was the pitcher in baseball. And those were roles that were important and critical to the team's success.
Yep.
But in work, it was tough. Like you go into a corporate environment and you got 7 bosses and they're telling you what to do. And like, hey, why didn't you put the TPS report on my desk, or whatever it is? It's like, and it's demeaning, and it can be very discouraging, and you kind of have a hard time finding your place and what that next step of your life is. So for me, finding that early success through hard work and through getting outside of my comfort zone really allowed for me to find that place again in the world where I could become a leader, or someone that people could rely upon. And so I was good at talking to people, but I didn't know a lot about operations. But it wasn't hard for me to like get to know the people and understand, the intricacies of the business and the inefficiencies of like, hey, this would be better if this happened, and getting involved in those processes. I think there's a lot of people along the lines of what you said, where they want to fire off a text or an email, but there's a lot of people who want to raise their hand and say, this doesn't work, or this is broken. And that's it. That's the extent of it. But it's like, what about raising your hand and identifying the issue, not pointing fingers, and then helping whoever's involved in that do it? That's the way things are going to get done, not only faster, but far more effectively, because you're going to be doing it constructively, but you're also going to be doing it together as a team. No one likes when you raise your hand and point the finger and that's it, and you walk away. Like, people are just going to be pissed off, and you're really not learning about what the real problem is. And now you're creating a divide amongst departments or peers,
Yeah, it's an interesting point, and that's one I wanted to make sure we kind of drove home, because I think the attributes you have, the skills you have, your demeanor, whatever you want to call it, it serves as a pretty good springboard to the rest of the discussion, because I don't think many people could have made such a drastic change, a career change like you did without those traits to make it really, really work. I mean, it's just so cool to think about it. One other quick kind of biographical question was, like, were you always funny? Are you funnier in writing than in person? Did you find out that you were funny, like chopping it up on the golf course? Like, how did that come out? Like, I don't think I'm as funny as you, but I do think I'm somewhat funny, and I only found that out until like later in life. And now I think I'm not that funny because my coworkers are all a lot funnier than me. So, like, where did that come into it? Your humor is obviously a huge part of what you do now.
Sure.
So where did you discover that about yourself?
So that's a good question. And I'll say that's the first time I've been asked that, like in a podcast setting. So I think this is a great question. And I would answer it by saying I'm far more funnier in writing and through like marketing creativity than I am in person. I'm quick-witted and I can have my jokes, and especially around who I'm most comfortable with, but I'm definitely not someone who's going to walk into a room and be the person who owns the room or is loud and just starts firing off jokes and stuff. That's not me. So I'm sure I've met a lot of people or come across a lot of people who are like, I thought you'd be funnier, or something like that. And it's, but you don't have to create memes or humor in marketing. You don't have to be a stand-up comedian. You just have to have a good sense of humor, maybe a sick, twisted mind sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I had this unique ability to where you could look at a picture and you hear the saying, or a picture's worth 1,000 words or 1,000,000 words or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's the way it is with memes too, where you can find a picture and you're like, how can I relate this to golf? And there's a lot of ways you can do that. And I've changed over time, like how my humor is delivered through the memes with players specifically. At first I didn't know any of these players at all. I didn't know any of them and never thought in a million years that I'd be friends with some or meet all of them and stuff. So it changes if you want to go, make fun of a guy or kick the guy while he's down, and then you might happen to run into him on Tuesday next week. It's like you got to be a little more careful. And I also saw the opportunity for the long-term opportunities and stuff. And you're never going to get too far by being ruthless, right? So,
Sure.
Yeah, to me, my sense of humor is really more internalized, and I can obviously have fun and make people laugh in person, but I'm not going to go in and be the person that's going to light up a room every single time. That's not me.
Well, go ahead, Cecily.
Have you ever, or can you think of a moment where you put out a meme and it like completely offended someone and they reached out to you?
Yes.
You're like, now I'm more careful.
Yeah, I mean, there were two people who I went very hard at in the beginning, Patrick Reed and Smiley Kaufman. And Smiley was because of his poor play. And the thing that's tough about Smiley is I've never met him. So he's the one guy who I haven't met. And he was a great player, and he still is. Like, I know people who play with him right now, pickup games, and he's an unbelievable golfer. And I've heard he's a great guy too. He's really good friends with Ricky Fowler and Jordan Spieth and Justin Thompson. These guys, some of these guys who I know and I think are great. And he just started playing bad, like bad. And with golf, and in golf, it's tough though, because like I can sit here and make fun of the Cleveland Browns. Like, let's say they're playing bad year over year in the NFL. And all right, well, now they're going to be the butt of the joke, right? And you're making fun of an organization, and a general manager or a coach of the Cleveland Browns, they're probably not meddling too much in meme humor on the internet, and they're not going to be too offended by it. A player might get pissed if it's directed towards them, but really now you're dealing with a fan base, and
right.
At that point, it's so removed that it's going to be okay. You're going to get some trigger people. With golf, it's personal. It's you. Yeah. And I've been out there now with players, and you see the work they put into it and the commitments and sacrifices they make. I still don't feel sorry for them. because like they have this ultimate opportunity and they're very blessed and they should have a lot of gratitude. But at the end of the day, it's a tough thing. And I see what they put into. And so I definitely put a lot out there with him. And my regrets with him was just beating a dead horse. And I think for him, he's not as mentally as strong as a person as some of these others. And I think he's publicly admitted that. And I think I was a contributor to him just, spiraling to where it got to a place where he's now on the broadcast. He's doing a great job. And he's found a home for it, but he just couldn't get out of his own way. And it's unfortunate. So I felt bad about that. And I still do. Like Patrick Reed, it was just kind of everyone bullying on him, like he did a lot of dumb things. And then it just became like, oh, okay, this is the person we've all decided to not like. So let's start making fun of him. And I led the charge on it, and I got to meet him. And I became friends with his brother-in-law. He's his caddy. And he was so cool all the time, just such a nice guy. And I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, dude, how's this guy like caddy for Patrick like that? I'm like, this is just crazy. Like, this guy's so cool. And we were in Vegas. It was actually the first tournament that I worked with Jason on. And Kessler is his name, messages me and says, hey, I want you to meet Patrick. And I'm like, no. No, I'm not going to do that. Like, he's going to probably murder me or something. And he walks off the 18th green, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, how is this going to go?
Sweaty palms, I'm sure.
I was like, this could be bad. And he comes up to me and just kills me with kindness for like 20 minutes. And he addresses the elephant in the room. He's like, oh, so you're the guy with all the jokes online. He's like, you're tough, man. He's like, I can't seem to shake it. He's like, I'm always the butt of the joke. And, he's like, but I get it. He's like, I understand like what you got to do. And I just said, hey, look, like there are times I've crossed the line for no reason whatsoever. And I go, and I apologize for that. I was like, that's not really who I am. And really, when it comes down to it, it's not who I want to be. And I've done that. And I'm sorry for that. But I go, but there are things you have done that have been pretty bad. And I go, and I have to run it. And I go, I don't know if it's you or Tiger Woods. I'm like, we got to that's what we do. And he goes, no, I get it. He's like, I get it. He was like, I appreciate you saying the other thing though. And I was like, no. I'm like, all right, well, good luck, whatever. And we parted ways. And then a couple weeks later, we were at a tournament and I got to be around. And he's like, hey, come walk 18 with us. We're going to do our practice round. And I'm like, all right. And we do. And he was just the nicest guy. Like, he was so nice the whole time and like got along very well with him. And I got to learn like some of the things of why people, feel a certain way about him and stuff. And I don't know, opened my mind to stuff. And that was kind of the beginnings of understanding who a lot of these people are, because you can't really get a true profile on them by watching them play golf on NBC or Golf Channel,
Well, yeah, and you think about it in terms of celebrities in general. Like this whole notion of celebrity dehumanizes people, and so when I see people, quote unquote, normal people interact with a celebrity, you can see that celebrity is being treated like a piece of steak. In person, it's not a person to them; it's an idea. Or something like that. So whatever it is, they're not being treated like a real human being. But when you meet someone like that and it humanizes them, it probably takes that element of like that depersonalization out of it. And you're like, oh yeah, this is a real human being with struggles just like the rest of us and concerns and that sort of thing.
Yeah. It's interesting. So it's been cool to get to meet a lot of the people though and get to know who they are. And to your point though, I have made some that have made people. I mean, I have a really funny story that I can share. It's this is probably the funniest moment. I made a joke of Lee Westwood. And Luke Donald was in this joke too, but he didn't seem to care as much. But they both were world number one for a long time.
Yeah,
but they never won a major, and that's like obviously the biggest thing in golf. Like, there's you want to win a Ryder Cup or you want to be world number one, but you want to win a major.
Sure.
And so I found this really funny picture of Tiger Woods. Oh no, sorry. Yeah, it was Tiger Woods like looking over a bunker, kind of like getting his angle.
I'm already laughing.
Yeah, and then I photoshopped Lee and Luke in the picture, and the meme just said, "Wow, 15 major championships in one picture." And obviously, Tiger has all 15, and it just blew up. And Lee commented on here like, "Wow, real funny coming from a bloke that lives in his mom's basement with a tiny." And I just died. I'm like, oh my God, this is the best thing. I'm like, what a comment. I'm like, this is great. And I'm like, he hates me. I was like, but that is the best response I've gotten to date. And everyone's going nuts. Like half my audience is like, yeah, Lee, he's a loser. Like he probably can't play golf. And then the other half is like, Lee, you suck. You can't win the big one. And I'm like, oh my God. So I've learned one thing. If you're a celebrity and someone makes fun of you online, two things you need to do. Don't respond.
Right.
Or two, make fun of yourself.
Right.
Like, and I've had people do that where they make fun of themselves and then everyone's like, oh, you're the best. Like, it's so cool how you interact with people. And then you become like a fan favorite, you know?
Oh my gosh. That is so funny.
But yeah. And then I got to meet Lee about a year later. And I was interviewing people on a tee box, and I didn't know he knew who I was because at the time my face wasn't on camera at all.
Sure.
And I was like, oh man, I haven't interacted with this guy since the joke and, you know, whatever. And I interview him on the tee box. He doesn't say a thing to me about PGA Memes. And at the end, I'm like shaking his hand, and I'm like, by the way, I'm the guy who runs PGA Memes. And I know. He's like, we're good. And then he walks away and he goes, how's your mom doing?
Awesome.
I was like, oh man, it was cool.
That's awesome. I was going to suggest that you make a joke about your basement, but he took care of that for you. So awesome. Cecily with the hard-hitting questions. I love it. Travis, you just got done telling us a pretty funny story about you and Lee Westwood, but wanted to kind of pivot back to, go back to where you were sharing your story and talking about how golf was becoming a part of your life as a result of being in this kind of a sales role. And I always say that, golf breaks down a lot of barriers. So when you're out there with people and just chopping it up on the course, you can have fun with them, share jokes like you were saying earlier in this conversation. It breaks down a lot of barriers, and it helps facilitate human interaction and relationships and in the context of business deals. So I'm sure that was helpful to you, especially with your engaging personality. So that's kind of where we were. You were understanding that golf was becoming a part of your life again. So why don't we pick it up from there? What was kind of next in your story? When did you start thinking how does one even think like, oh, I'm going to get on social media and make this? I don't even know how you would even have that idea. And if I remember correctly from us talking before, you were not like a big social media guy prior to doing this. So it makes it all the more crazy to me that you were able to pull this off, dude.
Yeah. So I didn't have social media at all, but the thing that kind of gave me my entry point into it, we had a good friend who was a little older than us at the time and had some back issues. And he always had the funnest prank on the golf course. He had this fake rubber snake.
Oh, yeah.
And he would prank people with it. And we would get reactions that were so funny. You see grown men scream like little girls are like running down the fairway, or you get the beverage cart girl and she'd scream and drop all the ice everywhere and stuff. I mean, it was like the funniest thing. It's like, then it became something that I looked most forward to going to the golf course was, who are we going to prank today?
Okay.
And he stopped playing. He was like in his 50s at the time, but he stopped playing because he had to get back surgery. And so we went like a year without pranking anybody. And I'm like, man, we got to carry on the baton here. Like, what do we do? So I went and bought a snake and I started pranking people, and we were getting even better reactions and having so much fun with it that I created a brand called Hiss a Lot, and it blew up. We were pranking people all the time, having so much fun, but it also was cool because I was doing it at my work tee times and stuff. And so like we were pranking dealers, or we were pranking like the dealer's top sales reps or something. And we were having a blast with it. And I had a friend early on that helped me like create an Instagram page and was like, hey, we need to put this out there. These videos are just too funny. And within a month, like Golf Channel's like re-airing these videos. We had Brock Osweiler, who played quarterback for a couple of years. Like we pranked him and it went on ESPN and all these. So the page blew up. It didn't get to like as big as what PGA Memes is, but it was 50, 60,000 followers. And it got me that insight of how social media works. And it also kind of showed me what golf social media was at the time. And a couple of years after, I don't know, you said this earlier in the podcast, but it resonated with me where you don't really laugh out loud when you're alone, right? It's like the mark of a serial killer or whatever. Well, the only thing that really made me do that were memes. I traveled a lot for work, being, an executive in alarms. Like I was traveling to go visit all of our sales offices, our dealers, and I would unwind sometimes at night, or you scroll or you look at memes, or that was kind of like what people do. And they still do it today, where you forward funny memes to all your friends and family. And I found a lot of them were very relatable to my life, whether it was in my work life or my personal life or my golf game or whatever it was. And so some of them would just make you laugh, and it took your mind off of the shit show that your life was at that point in time. So I was like, dude, this is cool, but there's nothing out there that's like golf specific.
Okay.
But like golf social media, no one really had an identity at the time. And so I was in my underwear, honestly, on the couch, and I looked to see if PGA Memes was available, and it was. I got like a green little arrow that said this username's good to go. I'm like, that's lucky. Okay.
Yeah.
I started making a few memes, and I sucked at it. I'm not gonna lie. The first month, I've deleted everything that I actually posted.
Okay.
So bad, but it was still like working, And then I said, you know what, like. You have a dry, sick, twisted humor, and you see things differently in some ways. Like, just be you. Like, no one knows this is you. Like, just do, And I saw a couple of players I kind of poke fun and make fun of. I saw some, and I was like, I'm just gonna be authentic and do it. And it blew up. Like, it blew up fast. And I got to like 50 something thousand followers in like 6 weeks of my new plan, which so I was already bigger than that other page that we had done. And then Patrick Reed won the Masters, and
oh gosh,
I'm a big Ricky fan, and that was the closest Ricky'd ever come to winning the Masters, and Patrick Reed, stole that opportunity from all of us, and I tell you this, like the whole world in golf, it just felt like they weren't like too enthused that he just won. And
I remember the moment.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, and listen. It's sad to think this way and joke about it, because at that point in time, that's the greatest moment in Patrick Reed's life.
Yeah, for sure.
And here I am. I'm just going to make fun of it. And, the next day they go do the tour up in New York, and he takes his picture up at the New York Empire State Building and all this stuff.
Right.
At the time, I was savvy enough to know that he was the villain in golf and he didn't have a lot of friends. And I found this perfect picture. It's him taking a selfie, and there's no one else in the frame. And I'm like, live look of Patrick Reed celebrating his Masters win with all his friends and family. And dude, this thing got like, it blew up, like beyond, blew up. And I ended up getting up to like 250,000 followers, and Golf Digest me and wants to interview me. I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, maybe I need to be more of a savage, and do some jokes like this. And that's where that kind of started.
Oh my gosh.
And all meanwhile, I have my day job, right? Like I'm showing up to like 8 a.m. meetings with my team of 30. And we're talking about sales and marketing strategies. And none of them know I'm running PGA Memes.
I was just going to say, let me interrupt you. So Cecily is our marketing manager at Arrowhead Talent Solutions. How many followers do we have, Cecily? I'm going to bring this up as many times as I can during this interview.
We're in the low hundreds.
Okay, cool. That's great. So just want to kind of compare stats.
And yeah, I need to get mean on there.
Yeah, we have to take some notes from
make
Travis.
some memes making fun of Clark, and
it's going to be Clark. Yeah, that's what it's not going to be anyone else.
I'm not nearly as famous as Patrick Reed, unfortunately. So you're going to these meetings and you're kind of like, this is going to sound very nerdy, but you're kind of like Batman or something. Like no one knows. You're just like Bruce Wayne, but nobody knows you're Batman kind of thing at this point.
Yeah, no one knows I'm doing this, but like it's
gosh.
what I'm most excited about. I'm like on the phone with some friends, or like I'm like, dude, like there's article on Golf Channel now, or like I just got featured in Golf Digest, or like, hey, this pro DM'd me or something. I'm like, dude, this is cool. Like I like kind of found this new, like, I don't know if it was really a passion at that point, but it was just like a newfound excitement and rejuvenated me a little bit. But I still had my job and I loved the people who I worked with. So I still enjoyed my job and we had a big job in front of us. But what happened in my career was that I wouldn't say he was really a true like mentor, but he had a hand in some stuff, is our CEO was retiring.
Okay.
And I loved his leadership. I thought he was a great leader and I really enjoyed, and I never worked directly for him, but I really enjoyed working, for him in the company. And when he left, they brought in a new CEO and he was from Windstream, which is a huge company in Arkansas. And he just saw things completely different. And at the time, the company wasn't necessarily trajectorying, like the trajectory wasn't in the right, way moving forward. And I think partly that was because we were putting all our eggs in our dealer program. And he looked at it like we needed to have more internal sales and marketing. And so I was kind of in the middle of that. And it was tough. Like any change in corporate companies is tough. And that's probably where you guys find a lot of people looking for jobs and stuff, because they don't want to work for the new CEO. And a lot of times when new CEOs come in, they bring in their whole regime from old companies.
Yep.
And I survived all that. I was like, I guess you could say like I was bulletproof, because I was good at my job, but I was like, they couldn't replace me for my job. And so I knew I was safe, but not a lot of my peers were. I was seeing a lot of my peers leave, and my true like mentor and my actual boss was there, and we were just weathering the storm, and we weathered it. And eventually he ended up to go work at a different company who was like a partner of ours.
Okay.
So when he left, I was alone and I'm like, damn, this sucks. And they knew I was looking at that point, they knew that I wanted to look, but I wasn't. Like, I was making good money. PGA Memes was going. And at this time, guys, I knew PGA Memes was special. And so what I did is I took a step back and I looked at Barstool Sports and I looked at some of these others, and I said, I think I could make this a media platform that toes on satire and parody. But I think there's some other things I can do because of my experience and who I am. I'm not a little boy in his mom's basement like Lee Westwood thought. I'm like, I think there's something we can do here. I go, but we can't do it right away. Like, it's got to be something that I build a bigger audience. I build some more credibility, and there's some other things that I need to do. So I had the wherewithal to understand that. And I had the time and the patience because I had a pretty good corporate job and I was making good money. But I put that plan in order, and the company thought I was looking around to leave because all my other people were leaving too. And they offered me hundreds of thousands of dollars to stay. I didn't even know like a stay bonus existed.
Yeah.
But I get a call to go meet with the new CEO, and he's like, I want you to know, he's like, you now report directly to me. And here's the book I want you to read. It helped me in my career, and I want to be a part of helping you. He's like, one day, you could become the CEO of this company. He's like, you're one of the few people I see that could be that person. And it was flattering. But at the time, it's like, I don't know that that's what I wanted. Right. And then he's like, well, here's the deal. He's like, I don't know if you're looking. I don't know where your head's at, but here's this. And if you stay, here's what you'll get. And I'm like, well, I wasn't even looking. So I was like, dude, this is a huge bonus,
Yeah.
And 2 months later, I got a call from a headhunter to look at a job for Terminex.
Yeah.
And Terminex is obviously much bigger than Brinks Home Security, and Service Master was the head company, I think it is. And they basically bought this mall in Memphis and have all these major companies like True Green and all this stuff. And so I go there and I take the interview, and I had 5 rounds of interviews with people. Wow. This was over 3 trips. And then I met with the CEO of Terminex, who was like big time. And I ended up getting the job. And this was a huge job, big salary, massive signing bonus. And this kind of goes back to something you asked earlier in the interview, but get everything. I quit my job, and I do this. This is like who I am, but I call my new boss and I say, hey, I can put my 2 weeks in, but I want you to know next week is a trip to the Bahamas with all of our top dealers. And I go, I think it'd be kind of screwed up if I go on that trip on my last week.
Yeah.
And do all that and then leave. I go, I don't think that's the right thing. I think I should to go tomorrow and tell them I'm leaving. If they want me to go on the trip, I'll go, but I think they should know about it. And he was like, that's a good way of looking at it. He goes, go ahead. And so, of course, in sales, like they typically walk you out if you leave your job. Yeah. They kept me on for like 2 days, but I thought it was a good way for them to like heal, if you will, to use that trip as an opportunity to be in front of these dealers and talk about Travis is gone. What do we do now?
Yeah.
Well, the great thing, so me trying to be a good guy, like 2 days later, I get a call from the headhunter. Hey, no. We have a problem.
Oh no.
And I'm like, what? Like, we can't find any record of you graduating college. And I'm like, well, you're never going to find it because I didn't. I go, I have my associate's degree. She's like, well, you didn't graduate at Weber State? I'm like, no. And I go, we pulled up my resume, and I had my resume of the years I attended my junior college and the degree that I have. And I put the degree listed. And then I put the Weber State and the years attended, but no degree. And like, I got advice from 4 people of how to write up the resume, and they advised me to do it that way. But apparently they read into it that was the years I went and I got a degree.
Oh my goodness. Oh
so
man.
They rescinded their offer. Ooh. And I'd already quit my job, and they had already announced that I'd quit my job to all the dealers and everything. And it was bad. So this was like the darkest moments of my life here. I'm like, what do I do? At this time I had 3 kids. One was a baby, and I'm like, don't have insurance. I don't have income. I'm like, I'm screwed. And this is where I started thinking like, I need to accelerate my plan with PGA Memes, but that's still not going to answer the questions or the problems I have in front of me. And I was fortunate enough to where I did such a good job in security that there was another opportunity available at the 4th largest alarm company that they were like, hey, we'll bring you on, like we'll match your salary you had at Brinks and all this stuff. And so I ended up going there, and I guess to kind of finish this part of the story is it was like one good year of going in kicking ass, and like it was actually really good for me because this was a much smaller company, and I would say they were like 10 years behind where Brinks was in terms of their sales and marketing and dealer program. So where I came in with my eyes closed and like really shook some shit up and did some great things and actually did really good financially. And then COVID hit, and this was the best thing for me with golf. Like I knew I had something special, and I used that time to just build that business while everyone worked at home, because I could do my job from anywhere in the world.
Right.
I wasn't afraid to travel. So I just did it, and I built this golf business. I started cultivating relationships and partnerships, and I went full steam and really put my heart on my sleeve to really try something that I wasn't fully an expert in. I wasn't really comfortable with it, but I knew that this was going to be something that I was passionate about, and not only that, Clark, like I had full control. Like I didn't have to rely on a new CEO coming in and what he was going to think of me, or I didn't have to worry about losing my job or this. Like, I just felt like I needed something where I had full control. But not only that, I was passionate about it. I like enjoyed it. Every day brought something new to the table that was exciting.
Yeah.
And so I worked my ass off for about a year during COVID, and it took me not even a year, and I surpassed the income that I was making as like a 15-year executive in the alarm industry.
So that year you really did everything you could to build up this business. You were still working at the security company though, full time.
Yeah.
So you were pulling double duty, but that's when you figured out, okay, I can do this thing full time.
Yes, 100%. I'll never forget. This was like the coolest moment ever. I somehow got connected with Mizzen in Maine. Like they messaged me like, I'd love to send you some stuff, whatever. And I'm like, oh, that's great. Heard about your company. I'm like, we have something we're about to launch. I'd love to talk to you guys about partnering, and they were in Dallas. And I'm like, they're like, yeah, we'd love to hear that. That'd be cool. Can you meet next week? Sure. So I set the meeting up at lunch, and this is when I was in office. I drove to this building, met with these people at Mizzen in Maine. It was like 4 people in the conference room, and I pitched them on this new series that I was going to do. And I didn't really know. I'd never done a series before in my life. I'd never done anything like this in my life. I've pitched people on becoming an authorized dealer for Bring Some Security, but I sat there in this meeting. I put together a pitch deck. I sold them like the best sales pitch I could do at the time. And I asked them for $50,000. And they said yes immediately after I finished my last sentence. And
in the meeting, you closed them.
In the meeting, I closed them. And I walked out. I'm like, should I have asked for more? Like,
oh, sure.
I was like, well, how cool is that? I'm like, I just closed like a $50,000 deal on my own, and I don't even know what I'm doing, and don't get me wrong, like that was just perfect timing, like, just unbelievable. Everything lined up. It's not that easy, obviously, but that happened for me. And that was the moment where a million light bulbs popped off and said, hey, I need to start thinking about more ideas like this. I need to start thinking about how I can partner with different types of companies. And I need to take this serious, because if I can go and pull this off without really knowing what I'm doing, like what else am I going to be capable of? And, the rest was history. I just, built it up from there.
That is incredibly inspiring and very cool. That is an awesome story. The one term that I keep thinking of when you are describing your journey, and especially like these most recent stories you've been telling, is like house cat. A friend of mine was telling me, dude, you're not a house cat anymore. Like you can't go back and work for anybody else. You can't live out any other people's visions. You can't be a corporate guy. And that's what I keep hearing with you over and over again in my head, is just like, this dude's not a house cat. You're not made to do that. You're made to be out there and connect and create and build things. And it's uncomfortable as all get out a lot of times, but if not you, who? I mean, like, that's the thing. People have to step into these creative kind of roles, and you've embraced it.
Yeah. No, I think corporate life is not for everybody.
Right.
But there's so many great things from it too. Like, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing today as successfully as I have been able to do without having that experience. I attribute a lot of my success to being in the corporate ranks and having to work up the ladder and understanding how decisions are made and how you have to make people feel a part of those decisions and rub egos the right way. Being a part of a team, those parts, like, I want my kids to all be part of team sports, no matter if they're all stars or not. Like, I think it's just such a good thing for them. But corporate life, depending on what it is, it'd be hard for me to just jump right back into it and be in a role, like I was. It'd have to be something where it's, I'm very passionate about and, believe in fully, for sure.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that 100%. I mean, yeah, where you are and the impact you've been able to make doing your own thing, though, it's pretty amazing and it's admirable. And I would struggle to envision you going back into something like that, but you just never know. And that kind of leads me to one of my next questions. And so we have all these other things that we could talk about with you. So like the charitable endeavors that you participate in, helping run other people's social media accounts. I mean, you have a family and a beautiful wife and all this kind of thing. So, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff that we could talk about. But when I think about you, one thing that I always wanted to ask you this is like, what's the end game? You know, we're talking here about the theme is what to do when you figure it out. And I think about you and your story, and it's like, well, you figured it out for now, but maybe there's still a lot more exploration for you in your life and your career. So like, is PGA Memes and all these other accounts you're doing and all this stuff, is this a step in the journey? Sounds like you have more of a vision that you would like to grow into. So what is next for you, or what does that look like? Or are you just kind of like, the plan is there is no plan?
No, I would say that I've had ideas of where I want it to be. And my biggest fault to this point is just, it's funny. Like I look at this, looking back at this whole story now and talking to you guys, I made some big jumps and sacrifices early on, but I was in a place where a lot of people don't have that opportunity, where I had the cushy corporate life and the salary and all that stuff. Now that I'm in this entrepreneur space on my own, I now have employees and got money coming out the door and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
To make certain moves require a certain amount of risk.
Yep.
And I look at the risk as far more dangerous today than it was 4 years ago or whatever. And because now it's not only me, it's impacted. I can impact some other people who work for me or rely upon me. So I don't want to make any wrong moves here or anything. But to me, my goal and what I really want to try to start executing, it really comes down to the end of this year and going into next year, is I want it to become more of a brand where we have more creators that come and be a part of this.
Mm-hmm.
That I can be a sounding board and platform for them, for their personal brands. But we can start having more identities, more personalities, more opinions that aren't just Travis. And I think to me, that's where the brand can really blossom. We can have multiple podcasts. We can have different hosts for different shows.
Yeah.
We can have a betting expert. We can have, all that stuff in there. And it doesn't have to be me. It doesn't have to be my brother-in-law. It could be a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I look at Barstool in a way where you might hate Dave Portnoy, but you really like this person, or this person. And so it still keeps you following and keeps you engaged with the brand. And so that's an area we haven't quite got to yet that I plan to get to. And I'm excited about that. And hopefully the end game for me with that, Clark, is that, sooner or later, we have a merchandise line. We have a great podcast network. We do great partnerships. We continue these events. Maybe there's some type of media company or betting platform or company that comes around that says, hey, we want to buy this platform, or we want to buy into it X% and help you really elevate it. Like that'd be a pretty cool opportunity that, we would definitely jump at and see what we could do together.
Yeah.
But at the meantime, like the 5'9" stuff has been nice to where it adds a little level of seriousness to it.
Yep.
Because it is tough when you meet someone and they're like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm the team officer over at PGA Memes. Like, hey, people are like, who's this nerd?
I'm an influencer.
That's right.
Parents,
right.
That's the thing too, is I'll get invited to stuff like, hey, we're looking to have influencers or so-and-so. And they're starting to use the word creator more, which is, I feel like I could fall under the word creator, but I'm not an influencer,
Sure.
We just have a brand that has a lot of reach and definitely could promote influence, but I'm not going to be on camera like, hey guys, let's talk about my skincare routine. I know a lot of you are asking. Let's go through that real quick. But
that was on my list.
Was on the list, Ass. All right. Well, we're not going to get into that. That's private. So
that was a surprise question.
Yeah.
And I know that Cecily is probably ready for me to wrap this up because she manages me, and that's probably the best.
I manage the talent.
Yeah, that's probably for the best. But something that I've been thinking about throughout this discussion too is that I think there's just so much opportunity for the sport of golf, the game of golf in general. And I've felt that very strongly for about 5 years now. Do you think, two-parter, do you think that you have had a measure of influence in making golf cool? And what do you think could be the future of the sport?
Oh man, I don't know if it's been making it cool. I think there's some things that we've done that make me feel that way a little bit. I love the events we put together. You bring all walks of life. We had one Monday. My days are foggy right now. It was a long weekend, but Monday we had an event in Charlotte. And we had people playing in their 60s, and then we had 18-year-old kids out there, and you had people wearing like urban like street gear, looking like Jason Day, and you have people prim and proper on the course. And you got people coming from everywhere to play, and like it was fun. And the one thing with our events that I continuously hear is we've never had such a fun day on the golf course. And I love to hear that because we try to make it more than golf. It's obviously giving back, but also it's experience, and that bodes well for the partners that tend to sponsor for the events too. And with the reach we have, I think we are reaching a lot of people who are interested in golf or barely getting into golf. And I think the humor and the way we humanize the players now, some of the content we're creating, I think it definitely helps in that regard. But with the future of golf, there's a lot of improvement that needs to be made. I think that definitely it's becoming more inclusive, and there's brands like Topgolf and some others that are making it more accessible and easy and not as intimidating. But it starts at the top, like you hear in a lot of things. And right now, the top of golf is a mess. I think with Live and PGA Tour, there was a lot of hopes that this merger talk or something would come of something, and it just hasn't. And there's less toxicity, if you will, even on the broadcast today than there was a year or two ago. But there needs to be a way where it really comes together again. And right now you have this huge divide, and now the central focus point of every discussion is about money. And that just makes it kind of a turnoff, in my opinion. And it's hurting. I don't think the game is really shrinking by any means. I think people kind of enjoy golf for what it is. But if we're thriving at the top, I think golf's going to do well all around. They got to really figure it out. So I don't know what the answers to that is. I think they've got a lot of work to do. There's a lot of egos in the way. And hopefully, I think what's going to happen is they're going to be pushed into something sooner or later. There's just too much money going out the door for an inferior product. So we'll see,
Yeah, it makes total sense. Well, you don't need me to tell you what to do or to give you another project on top of the 12 that you're running simultaneously. But I think that folks like you should have more of a hand in that kind of discussion, because I think you're a key stakeholder. And I think that your perspective is unique, and you've brought a lot of value to the game in different ways. And I think it's been interesting to watch it and see what you've been able to do over the years. I mean, it's really been a short time too. It's the coolest thing, and what you've been able to do. Do you have any final lessons for us, Travis, that you think people would want to learn, or anything that you would like to plug before we let you go?
Nothing to plug, just from a learning experience. It's just about getting out of your comfort zone. Like if you really are passionate about something or want to do something, apply yourself to learn more. Like, for me, watching countless videos on YouTube of observing or learning certain things, if it's reading books or going to conferences. I've gone to a lot of sales conferences or marketing conferences, and even if 90% of it's hot air and stuff that makes you feel uncomfortable, there's still going to be little nuggets. I went to one in Vegas one year, and I didn't even know who Ed Milet was, and I'm not sure you guys know who Ed Milet is, but he stood up and spoke. And I've never been moved more in my entire life than I was when he spoke. From the minute he started to the minute he ended, I was on the edge of my seat. Hair was sticking up on my arms. Like he drew me in more than anyone's ever drawn me in from a speaking perspective. And so I've been kind of a follower of his now on his podcast and some of the stuff he's done. And then I got the chance when I was running the Live Pro-Ams last year that I invited Ed to come out with his son and play, and got to meet him.
Oh, cool.
And become friends with him. And like that moment helped change a lot of trajectory of how I looked at things and stuff. So it's be a sponge and try to learn, from other people. Don't think you know everything. Like you're going to learn, but if you fail, like that's not the end of it. I mean, unless you fail very, very badly where you're doing something where it's criminal or something like that.
Sure, yeah.
It's final. You should learn from those failures. And like first time I ever was on camera doing an interview was our home course series with Jason Day. Like I went to his house thinking we were going to shoot an MTV Cribs video.
Sure.
He led us through his house. And then he kind of was like, get on camera, let's go, And so I was on camera.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been on camera and I've public spoke before to hundreds of people, but I was so uncomfortable. I can't even begin to tell you. Like, I didn't know what to do with I was like Ricky Bobby, I don't know with my hands. I was saying things I shouldn't say, but man, it pushed me. And then I watched that video, and as much as I wanted to cringe and just be like, oh my gosh, we can't air this, I was like, there's a lot I can learn from here. And there were a lot of people in the comments making fun of me that I wasn't a very good interviewer, or like, this guy sucks or whatever.
Sure.
And that happened for like a few different videos. And then I started getting positive feedback where people were like, hey, I really appreciate and love the way that you interview people. You let them speak and, tell their story, and then you step in when you need to. And like a lot of creators make stuff about themselves. And like I said, I'm not like a real creator. And so I feel like that helps me kind of bode well and toe the line. But my advice to people is just to learn on the go, but be humble, learn from your mistakes, but really like look at your people and your peers, your people in your industry, and learn from them as much as you can. Because look, if I couldn't pull this off and do anything, then anyone can do anything. I mean, it's like you said, this has been a very weird shifts in careers, and I didn't know much about this space before entering it, and I feel like we've done pretty good so far. And it's been just because we've been open-minded and humble about it.
Yeah, well, you're still climbing, man, and you have a lot more to give, and it's so cool to watch it, like I said. But, we talk to a lot of people in the midst of a career change or considering a career change, and it's hard. It's stressful. It's very scary. It's intimidating. And it's, it's an existential question that nobody can answer for you. You've got to make that determination yourself. But you're a really good lesson for someone considering a career change, or what is it that I really want out of my life. And hearing this story has been really cool. So thank you for the time. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for all that you've done for me, man. Just thanks for being you. Really appreciate getting to know you today, but over the years as well. This has been really, really awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm pleasure being on here and talking with you guys. This was fun. So, and just one more thing: don't go quit your corporate career job and start a meme page tomorrow, everybody. Like
that's what I was going to do. I'm done.
Please don't do
it. There's going to be like 100,000 more meme pages after this podcast is out there. Thanks, Travis.
All right, that's perfect.
Being generous with the amount of people who are going to listen to it.
Yeah, I didn't know we're going to have that many viewers out here today. This is great.
It's awesome.
Oh, shoot. Well, hey, man, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, take care, guys.